Hello crafty friends, this is the Papered Chef here. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to clean your blade holder, sharpen your blades. I'm going to compare the standard blade holder to the deep cut blade holder. I'm going to show you some bonus tips on how to sharpen other craft items you may have. And then lastly, I'll just go over what the ScanNCut can do. I just have a couple examples to show you of my latest projects. Okay, let's get started. First of all, I just want to acknowledge a few of my subscribers who have asked me about sharpening my blades. In my videos, I mentioned how I'm sharpening my blades, and then Blessed to Sew, Katie Marsh, and Joan, in one of my recent videos, all asked me to please demonstrate how I sharpen my blades. Okay, so this video is dedicated to you, and I'm going to start with just a basic troubleshooting tip. Okay, so when do I know I need to sharpen my blades? Well, first of all, if I'm cutting something and the edge starts getting a little rough, I know that it's not very sharp if the edge starts getting fuzzy. So it could be for two reasons. So the first troubleshooting tip I'm going to show you is just to open up your blade holder and to clean it. And the way I do that is very simple. Okay, and these tricks are both very simple. I'm just going to unscrew the blade out of the blade holder. Be careful, it's very sharp. Okay, first I'm going to look in there, and you see how there's, maybe some lint in there. Maybe you can't see. First of all, I'm going to just blow it. Okay, and maybe I get the lint out that way. And the lint is from using, just your Brother ScanNCut a lot, or the lint just builds up from using, different papers. The cheaper your paper, the more lint you're going to get in there. But that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you're going for, you're making wedding invitations and your paper's very fibrous. Okay, so I take a Q-tip and I'm just going in there and cleaning it. Okay, so you could wet the, see, I already got a lot of dirt out of there. I didn't clean it ahead of time on purpose because I wanted to just do it for this video. So I clean the bottom a little bit with the Q-tip. Sometimes I don't really wet the Q-tip because I need to use my ScanNCut right away again, but I might use a baby wipe, which is just a little damp, because I really just don't have time to just let this dry. I'm like ready to go. I'm trying to use my ScanNCut. All right, so that's how to clean your blade holder. Okay, now, while it's open, every single time it's open, there's no reason not to sharpen it. Okay, so that was the second objective for this video. To sharpen a blade, you're not going to believe my technique. Now, first of all, I want to just tell you, I am not a spokesperson for Brother. I just love this machine, and I do a lot of tutorials and classes on the machine. And I teach online at a couple different platforms. And so I don't think that Brother would probably recommend this technique because they want you to buy new blades. But this is what I've been doing for years. You literally take a piece of aluminum foil. Okay, I kid you not, to just rip it off, from the grocery store. Okay, I'm just peeling about a piece like this, just a little square of foil. I'm going to put my hand there so you can see it. Okay, there's my hand, so you can see about how big the piece of foil is. Okay, so now ball it up, and you can use this over and over and over again, and ball it up tight, really tight. Okay. And now you have a little piece of foil to sharpen your blade with. So, you could hold it in your hand, but I would not recommend that. I just say lay it down and just sort of, you can hold the side of it so it doesn't slip, but then, I'm just poking back and forth. I do this about 10 times. Okay, now sometimes your blade falls out, okay, which leads me to what happens sometimes, a troubleshooting tip. And you're doing things and you're crafting and your blade falls out, and that's fine, but watch. I'm going to just leave it, let it fall out. And you might even forget that it's in there. And, you could just screw your blade on, and you're like, oh, it's still in my foil. So sometimes I forgot that my blade was stuck in the foil, but that's okay. So anyway, or you might want to even take it out, and you might want to just sharpen, okay? I'm going to give you a closer look at the blades in comparison in just a minute. Okay, so let's just put that back in there. Now this is magnetic, so when I drop it in there, it just kind of sucks in, see? Because there's a magnet. Let's leave that off. Let's talk about the deep cut blade holder and just, open that up, and then we'll compare it in a minute. And as you notice, without me doing anything, the blade is already sticking out of the holder. But I'm going to just go ahead and do the same thing again because I want you to reinforce these concepts. Now look at that awesome, awesome deep cut blade. I'll talk about what it can do in a minute. Okay, so here's my other side of my Q-tip. Well, now let's just I don't even know what side I used. Let's get a new Q-tip. And that one's super dirty. Oh my gosh, I can see I don't know if my crafty friends can see that, but there's so much stuff stuck in my deep cut blade holder. So it's actually, you guys are helping me because I'm making this tutorial and I get to clean my blades. Look at all that stuff in there. I cut felt. Okay, I cut a lot of things with this. I'll talk about that in just a minute. All right, so anyway, just because we're focusing on cleaning, I'm cleaning and I'm wiping it out with, and there's glitter all over the place. This one, honestly, this one I probably shouldn't use. I probably should soak it. There's so much glitter in there. But regardless, okay, we've cleaned it. We've cleaned the outside a little bit. Okay, all that glitter. I think I even need to get the dust off of here. It's amazing how well it's still working, even though there's so much stuff stuck in it. Okay, while it's out, again, while my deep cut blade is out, I use my little ball of foil trick, okay? You can just lay it down. Don't hurt yourself, folks. You know? Well, here, let's just keep it out. We can just keep it out. And stab the ball of foil about 10 times. And I use this, like, I'll keep the ball of foil next to my ScanNCut and use it, like, every few mats worth of cutting, then I just kind of sharpen the blade. And also, I'm not just sharpening the blade, I'm getting the lint out of my container, you know, out of my blade holder. All right, so there we go. So now, let's stick him back in. Good, little magnet held him. Now let's compare. Let me get, I don't know if I need a piece of paper. If you have, as long as you can see the contrast. Okay, there, I'm holding them exactly next to each other. Okay, so the deep cut blade is to the left and it does extend. So it's really about blade angles. No matter what kind of machine you have, like whether you have a Cricut, a Silhouette, or I've even used like the Silver Bullet and other die cutting machines. The blades have different angles based on, you know, what the things they can cut. So this is a 60-degree blade angle. This is the deep cut blade. And this is a 45-degree blade angle. And not only that, this blade extends out further. So when you put the blade holders back on, which I'm going to do now. In fact, I just like to show you this with a little contrast. Here you go. There's a piece of paper. So let me just get in and focus, and you can see those blade angles. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to screw the caps back on. Okay, I'm comparing the blades now. It's the part of the video we're at, and I'm going to screw them all the way to the end, just to make them stick, just to make the blades stick out as much as it will. And then you can see that without even doing anything, the deep cut blade sticks out a lot more than the standard cut blade, okay? And then also just the types of materials it cuts are way different. So I wouldn't, okay, so now first of all, after you put the blade holders back onto each, dial them tight. So first dial them closed and then dial them back. So I went all the way up to 12 and now I'm gonna go back. So let's say I'm doing Whisper White cardstock like this. This is just a piece of light cardstock. And I'm going to go back to a 4. So always go, first make it tight, then go backwards. Now the blade just barely sticks out, see? Which means it cuts through my cardstock, because it'll barely stick out, it'll barely cut through. Now, so I use the standard cut blade to cut everything from light cardstock to heavy cardstock. I use it for vellum, I use it for vinyl, I use it for fabric, and all kinds of materials like that. Now my deep cut blade, I've dialed it back to 12, and now let's just say, you know, we'll go back to 5 for that. It's still way deeper. So I can cut very thick materials. And let me go all the way to 12 and show you. Look how thick that is. I can cut, with the deep cut blade, let me focus that. I can cut magnetic sheets, and I've shown tutorials on how to make magnets and using thick magnetic sheet material. I can cut felt, whether it's like, you know, your pressed felt, like your sort of your polyester felt, or your loose felt. I can cut some of the other things, fun foam, which is really cool, and mylar stencil material, like the plastic mylar sheets to make stencils out of, and light pieces of wood. I mean, this is just a great blade holder, so I definitely will need to clean this some more, but that's the deep cut blade holder. Again, close it all the way, then open it to your depth. So the two things to, you know, consider when you're cutting, even with your sharpened blade and you've set your blade depth and you've done your test cuts and things, that you should consider your pressure and your blade depth, okay? Because if you're still not being able to cut through something, even with you think it's the right blade depth, maybe you need to set your pressure setting, which will be a different troubleshooting tip. All right, so let's talk about, I said I would compare blades and then I would talk about sharpening other craft items. So I have many Cricuts. Before I got into the Brother ScanNCut, or actually concurrently, I also used the Cricut machines. And so let me just show you that for those of you that just might not even have a ScanNCut, you might just have a Cricut. This is my old Cricut. I have a new Cricut too, the Cricut Air. But this is just one of those old Cricuts where the blade doesn't even fall out. You just have to press it. And again, I've been doing this for years. Literally years and years. I've been sharpening my blades this way. It has made my blades last so long. But do I still save my old blades? Yes. Of course I save my old blades. I'll show you my little place to save my old blades. Okay, so about 10 times, sharpen it with your ball of foil, and then put it back in to your blade holder, okay? And let it go in there with the magnetic. Like let it kind of fall in there, and the magnet will hold it. Okay, so that's how to sharpen the Cricut. Now I'm going to show you, let's move that, just how to sharpen a punch. Because I said I would show you how to sharpen some other crafty items. So to sharpen your punch, you just fold your foil in half. Okay, always fold it in half, because if you try to get like one little sheet through, it kind of gets stuck, so you want the foil to be a little thicker. Now, I always take the end that's folded and put that in my punch first. So this is just your circle punch from Stampin' Up, like a 2-inch circle punch. And I just go in like this, and I punch out holes of foil. Okay, and that's how to sharpen it. You can move it over and keep on punching either way, and or you could just punch a bunch of circles and use them for other craft items. Like kids would like these little circles for their, for kids crafts, because you'd already have a bunch of circles cut out. So in fact, let them cut out the circles. Let the kids do it. Then they've sharpened your punches for you. Okay, so this works on punches. And does it work on trimmers? I have mixed feelings about if it works on trimmers. So I've done, when my trimmers get dull, I've tried to sharpen them like by putting the foil in there and cutting them with the trimmer. That didn't work. So I have done this. I've lifted up. This is my Stampin' Stampin' trimmer, and it has a cut blade and a scoring blade. So obviously the scoring blade you'd never have to sharpen because it's just a little nub. But the regular blade, it's not very deep, but I have been able to sharpen it with foil by going like this. Okay, let me just focus that. So I mean, it does sort of work, but I mean, I think that it only works to get maybe whatever was on there off. Like maybe it helped and it made me think it was sharper because maybe I got the lint off, or really, but I don't know if that actually works. I'd rather just replace my blades when they get dull, because blades are cheap, blade replacements are cheap, and I just don't want to fight with my trimmer. It's so important to have a good trimmer, because you want your card bases to look nice. So, but that's how to sharpen your trimmer. Okay, then you get little flakes of foil everywhere. Okay, keep this ball of foil. You can use it maybe 20 more times to sharpen your blades, and you're good to go. And that's how to do that. Okay, so what can the ScanNCut do? I have lots of classes online to teach about the ScanNCut. I have both classes on SkillShare platform and Udemy Academy. Okay, this class on how to make these kinds of cards, Happy Spring cards, is on SkillShare. But I'll just show you what the Brother ScanNCut can do, and I'll leave links in the description. If you want to learn more about it, or you just got the machine, it's good to invest in a very inexpensive class or series of classes. Okay, so what can it do? If you have a card base, which I used the trimmer to cut out a card base, then you can have perfect matting and layering using the Brother ScanNCut. So I cut out the mat, the first mat, this strip, these mats, these rectangles, these circles, the circle to stamp the sentiment, and then I cut out stamped images. That's another thing the Brother ScanNCut can do. It can scan in stamped images like these, and it can cut them out. And then it can also cut out outlines around your stamped images. Okay, so that's what it can do. It can cut out pattern paper and a lot more. Okay, it can cut all kinds of different materials, and I have lots of YouTube videos on the different materials it can cut out, including my back to school series, which I will link to. It has where I cut out multiple materials in many different videos. So be sure that even though you're sharpening your blades and you're getting more use out of them, that you save your old blades. Okay, I just put mine in the old containers they came in, and I do buy the Brother brands, even though, well, sometimes I buy other brands, but I mostly just buy the Brother blades. And I stick them in these cases, and the reason I save the old ones is because, like, if you're cutting fabric, it makes your blades very dull. So I just use my old blades, and I sharpen them right before, and I use those for cutting like fabric. And I don't mess with I don't let my paper blades touch my fabric blades. So save those old blades and use them until they're just like really, really bad and you can't use them anymore. So thank you, crafty friends, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you learned some more tips and tricks to use for your Brother ScanNCut. And by the way, this was the CM350 model, or Brother ScanNCut 2 that I was just showing you the blades for.